The story opens on a bright, sunny day at the All Japan University Karate Championships finals, with a packed stadium buzzing with excitement. In the ring, two finalists are locked in a fierce battle, exchanging powerful blows in the heat of the championship match. The crowd discusses one of the fighters, Hashazaki Inosuke, also known as the Bone Crusher. He's this year's favorite to win, especially since he lost the previous year, and everyone is eager to see if he'll take the title this time. With a powerful strike, Hashazaki blocks his opponent's kick, the impact so immense that it shatters the bone in his opponent's arm. While Hashazaki remains focused, his opponent screams in agony, his face contorted in a mixture of shock and excruciating pain. Hashazaki follows up with a decisive, powerful kick, aiming to end the match. The blow lands, and his opponent's eyes go white as he begins to fall, completely knocked out. A spectator shouts in disbelief, realizing Hashazaki won the point and the match with a single, devastating hit. With his opponent down, the announcer declares the winner, Hashazaki Inosuke. As the award ceremony begins, the crowd cheers, remarking that the other universities never stood a chance. But as Hashazaki receives his trophy, he looks strangely conflicted. A close-up reveals Hashizaki's face, not filled with joy, but with a deep, puzzling depression. The spectators notice his somber expression and speculate that he's worried about another fighter. His rival, a man named Yumyoku. It's revealed that Teru is the one who defeated Hashazaki last year. It seems Hashazaki desperately wanted a rematch against him in the finals, but Teru is nowhere to be seen. People in the crowd wonder why Teru didn't show up to the event, with one person mentioning a rumor that he stopped practicing karate altogether. Later, the scene shifts. Hashazaki walks alone in the pouring rain, his championship trophy stuffed unceremoniously into his bag, his expression still downcast. As he walks with his head hung low in the rain, a passerby can't help but notice the incredibly sad look on the champion's face. A close-up on Hashizaki's face reveals the depth of his frustration and disappointment, his features twisted in a silent grimace against the rain. Hashizaki's thoughts drift back to the past. He remembers the countless times he fought against his rival, Yumyoku, winning some and losing others, always pushing himself to the absolute limit. He reminisces that their intense rivalry is what pushed them to become so strong that no other karate fighter could match them. For Hashizaki, Teru was more than a rival. He was an inspiration, the person he wanted to become. They called each other their greatest rivals, but underneath it all, they saw each other as friends. Lost in his memories, Hashizaki silently questions why Teru stood him up at the tournament. His search brings him here, standing in the rain outside a run-down building labeled Yumyoku's apartment. Hashizaki stands before a door, sensing someone inside. He calls out to, "I know you're there. Let's talk." A voice from behind the door, belonging to Inosuke, says they haven't spoken since last year's tournament. He asks to come in, and the door slowly opens. Hashizaki steps into a dark, messy room. A lone figure sits in a gaming chair, illuminated only by the glow of a computer monitor. His eyes fix on the silhouette of his old rival. With his voice tight with frustration, Hashizaki gets straight to the point. "Who? Why didn't you come to the tournament?" From the shadows of the messy room, the figure at the computer clicks his mouse, looking at the tournament results. Without turning, he flatly says to Hashizaki, "Looks like you won." Hashizaki explodes with rage, shouting that there's no point in a tournament if Teru isn't there. He calls him a coward for winning last year and then disappearing. From his chair, the figure just smirks and says, "Okay, then." The figure swivels around, revealing a shocking transformation. It's Yumyoku, but he's now overweight and slovenly. With a smug look, he asks, "I lose, you win. You happy now?" Hashizaki's eyes widen in sheer disbelief. While Teru casually opens a bag of snacks and pours a drink, Hashizaki stammers, unable to comprehend the change, asking, "Are you really Teru?" Teru points at Hashizaki with a dismissive look, stating that he doesn't really care anymore about who wins or loses, leaving Hashizaki stunned. Hashazaki presses him for a reason, but Teru simply smiles and says he's sorry, but he stopped practicing karate a long time ago. With a chillingly serious expression, Teru tells him, once you fight him, you'll understand why. Hashazaki is left confused, asking what. Teru explains that compared to a certain guy, everything they trained for was worthless. He calls this person a monster, while Hashazaki demands to know who he's talking about. Ignoring Hashazaki's questions, Teru picks up a glow stick and asks him to leave, saying that his favorite idol's live stream is about to start. The scene shifts to a quiet night at a Lawson convenience store. Inside, two employees, a young woman with her hair in buns and a meek-looking young man with glasses, stand behind the counter during a quiet moment. They go about their routine, serving a customer. The young man politely asks about a points card and completes the transaction, wishing the customer well as they leave. The female employee, Ms. Ching, tells her co-worker, Tsuyoshi, that she fried too many nuggets and asks if she can eat them, already putting one in her mouth. Suyoshi deadpants that she's doing it on purpose and points out that she's already eating them, to which she just continues chewing happily. Their routine continues as another customer comes to the counter asking for cigarettes and chicken nuggets, which the meek-looking Suyoshi bags for him. After the customer leaves, the two employees watch him go. Ms. Ching notes that he comes in a lot. Ms. Ching deduces the man's lonely life from his regular purchases and decides to nickname him Mr. Lonely Drinker, much to Tsuyoshi's disapproval, who thinks it's a sad nickname. Their conversation shifts to the new rice ball flavor, kimchi, and mushrooms, which Tsuyoshi tried and found horrible. Ms. Ching exclaims, "I knew it." They discuss how the manager ordered way too many of the new rice balls. Tsuyoshi reassures her that the manager will be the one in trouble, not them. Ms. Ching then asks Tsuyoshi to restock the shelves, and he agrees. While Tsuyoshi is busy restocking, an angry customer shouts for someone at the register. Tsuyoshi looks up, wondering where Ms. Ching went, only to see her casually eating in the back room. Tsuyoshi hurries back to the counter and apologizes profusely to a group of annoyed delinquents who are tired of waiting. Just as the delinquents are getting aggressive with the timid clerk, Hashazaki enters the store with an intimidating presence, slams a can on the counter, and cuts in line, telling the delinquents that he was there first. Tsuyoshi is caught in the middle, stammering nervously as he finds himself between the angry delinquents and the imposing figure of Hashazaki. Hashazaki completely ignores the delinquents and stares intently at the terrified clerk. He asks, "Are you Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" The clerk, sweating, confirms that he is. A bead of sweat runs down a confused Tsuyoshi's face as Hashazaki glares at him with intense, focused eyes, his mind flashing back to his conversation with Teru. In the flashback, Hashazaki confirms the name Kawabata Tsuyoshi. Teru warns him with absolute certainty that no matter how much Hashazaki has trained in the past year, he will never defeat this person. The flashback continues, with a desperate Hashazaki grabbing Teru and demanding to know where this monster is. Teru nonchalantly tells him that if he goes to a convenience store in Sakai City at night, he'll probably meet him. The scene then snaps back to the present, with Hashazaki staring at the meek clerk, utterly bewildered. After a moment of tense silence, Hashazaki's shoulders slump and he dismisses the clerk, saying, "No, sorry, never mind," while Tsuyoshi timidly asks if he can help him. As Hashazaki leaves the store, the delinquents mock him, calling him a piece of shit. Tsuyoshi politely thanks him for coming. Sitting on a bench outside, Hashazaki sighs in frustration, believing he was made a fool. He opens a drink, thinking to himself that there's no way a guy with a body like that could be a martial artist. Just then, Hashazaki overhears the delinquents leaving the store, laughing about how they scared someone. At the same time, Ms. Ching returns and urgently tells Tsuyoshi that the blonde delinquent put something in his pocket. Ms. Ching prepares to call the police, but Tsuyoshi, surprisingly, tells her he's got it and thanks her, much to the delinquent's annoyance. Tsuyoshi calmly walks up to the group of delinquents and politely asks them to empty their pockets, which only serves to anger them. The blonde delinquent scoffs admitting they took something but blaming Tsuyoshi for letting another customer cut in line. Tsuyoshi looks flustered, trying to respond. Watching from the bench, Hashazaki mutters to himself, thinking the clerk is going to get himself beaten up. Tsuyoshi apologizes for the line-cutting incident but calmly states that it's no excuse for shoplifting. The delinquent gets furious and grabs Tsuyoshi's collar. The delinquent raises a fist, threatening to kill Tsuyoshi, while Tsuyoshi himself remains completely expressionless, his glasses hiding his eyes. From outside, Hashazaki sighs, thinking he has no choice but to save the clerk. But before he can move, a scream erupts. The blonde delinquent is suddenly on the ground, writhing in agony. Hashazaki jumps to his feet, completely shocked and bewildered, trying to process what just happened in that split second. Hashazaki analyzes the movement, realizing it wasn't a locking technique or a simple counter. He thinks that as soon as the punch was thrown, the clerk did something impossibly smooth. Hashazaki is left wondering what Suyoshi even did. The other delinquents are equally stunned and furious, shouting at Suyoshi as their friend writhes on the floor. Another delinquent attacks, but Suyoshi effortlessly redirects his arm, pokes him in the eyes, and then flips him onto the ground with shocking speed and precision. The third delinquent, wearing a baseball cap, throws a punch, but Tsuyoshi ducks under it and delivers a swift elbow to his face, sending him crashing to the floor. The final delinquent, with a shaved head, attempts a kick. His friend tries to warn him, but it's too late. Tsuyoshi dodges the kick and, with pinpoint accuracy, strikes the delinquent squarely in the groin, causing him to cry out in pain. As the delinquent doubles over, Tsuyoshi delivers a second, brutal strike to the same spot. Hashazaki watches in disbelief, realizing he just hit him in the balls twice. With a final, devastating punch to the groin, Tsuyoshi finishes the fight, his movements brutally efficient. The last delinquent collapses, foaming at the mouth, his body twitching as he wets himself from the sheer pain and shock. The scene is one of utter carnage. All four delinquents lie defeated on the floor. Tsuyoshi stands calmly over them, while Hashazaki stares from the entrance, completely stunned into silence. With his glasses reflecting the light, Tsuyoshi calmly states his philosophy. I will not start a fight. However, I will finish any and all fights that are brought against me. Hashazaki stares, his mind racing as Tsuyoshi exhales calmly, his glasses obscuring his eyes. The contrast between the violent outcome and the clerk's demeanor is staggering. Hashazaki internally analyzes what he just witnessed. Tsuyoshi didn't use a recognizable martial art like Aikido or Kung Fu. He simply dodged every attack and sent their momentum straight back at them. He realizes that's not all. Tsuyoshi specifically targeted their most vulnerable points, not just to injure, but to completely and utterly remove their will to fight. Teru's words echo in his mind. Compared to him, everything we worked for was for nothing. With dawning horror and excitement, Hashazaki realizes it's him. There's no doubt about it. As the police arrive to handle the defeated delinquents, Tsuyoshi sighs and turns to go back to work. But Hashazaki, his voice filled with urgency, calls out for him to wait. With sweat on his brow and a look of desperate intensity, Hashazaki makes his request. Will you please fight me? Tsuyoshi looks back at him, seemingly unfazed. Tsuyoshi calmly agrees, but explains that he's working and has a break in 1 hour. Hashazaki, ecstatic, immediately agrees to wait. Before Hashazaki can get too excited, Tsuyoshi stops him, stating that he has several rules that must be agreed upon before they can fight. Tsuyoshi lays out his first conditions. They will only fight once, there will be no second match, and it must take place in a quiet, secluded location away from prying eyes. Then he adds his final, most important rule, his glasses glinting. Even if you lose against me, please do not talk about me to anyone. His demand for secrecy is absolute. A wild, determined grin spreads across Hashizaki's face. The thrill of facing a true monster, a real challenge, is overwhelming. He clenches his teeth and agrees. Fine. The scene cuts to a bonus panel. Yumyoku Teru, now going by Aizen Sensei, is back at his computer, announcing his return to his viewers while proudly showing off his belly. Hashazaki, apparently watching his stream, asks in disbelief if he's really Aizen sensei as Teru casually snacks on junk food. Hashazaki asks why he's back, and Teru, pointing at the screen, explains he's only back because of the coronavirus and tells his viewers to stay safe. Meanwhile, another bonus panel shows Teru at what appears to be a live idol concert, screaming with passionate joy for his favorite idol, Miko. The story transitions, showing a glimpse of what's to come in the next chapter, the drive to become a stronger fighter. In the mountains, Hashazaki trains with ferocious intensity. All he's ever wanted, all he's ever trained for, was to become stronger. He unleashes a powerful punch against a massive boulder. The impact from his punch is immense, sending deep cracks spiderwebbing across the surface of the giant rock. The scene shifts back to the low-sun convenience store, signaling that the hour of waiting is almost over. Tsuyoshi checks his watch as the sun begins to set. Outside, Hashazaki waits patiently, then finally asks Suyoshi to come out and fight. The location is set, a quiet, empty park nearby. Hashazaki, now changed into his full karategi, stands ready and waiting, emanating an aura of pure focus. Hashazaki glares with determination, his muscles tense. "I've been waiting," he says, his voice filled with anticipation. As Suyoshi arrives, still in his work uniform, Hashazaki reminds him of the stakes. Kawabata Tsuyoshi. One fight, no second match. As I said before, Tsuyoshi tells Hashazaki that he will try to go easy on him so he doesn't get hurt. But then he adds, "I recommend you give it your all so that you do not have any regrets," leaving Hashazaki momentarily stunned. Hashazaki scoffs, his pride as a martial artist ignited. He declares he won't go easy and doesn't need Tsuyoshi to go easy on him either. He stretches, ready for battle, and says, "Let's start." Tsuyoshi simply replies, "Understood." The fight begins. Hashazaki takes a deep breath and assumes his fighting stance, his focus absolute. Across from him, Tsuyoshi stands casually, as if waiting for a bus. Hashazaki decides his first move. Believing Tsuyoshi uses an unknown style of Chinese kung fu, he knows he needs to close the distance first. He lunges forward, launching a powerful front kick directly at Tsuyoshi's face. But Tsuyoshi, with an almost imperceptible lean, dodges the kick. It misses his face by mere millimeters. Hashazaki is stunned by the effortless evasion. Undeterred, Hashazaki immediately follows up with a swift roundhouse kick, but Tsuyoshi blocks it with a casual forearm, completely unfazed. Hashazaki continues his assault with a jabbing punch, but again, Tsuyoshi dodges with a slight turn of his head, his expression unchanging. He throws another powerful punch, but it meets only air as Tsuyoshi sways out of the way with impossible grace. Hashazaki grabs Tsuyoshi's head, attempting a powerful knee kick to a vital point, a move that should be inescapable. Yet somehow, Tsuyoshi slips from his grasp. Hashazaki's knee hits nothing but air, causing him to lose his balance and tumble to the ground. On the ground, Hashazaki looks up in disbelief as Tsuyoshi stands over him, completely untouched and still wearing his placid, blank expression. Hashazaki gets back to his feet, utterly bewildered. Not a single one of his attacks has landed. He realizes with a jolt that Tsuyoshi has anticipated every move he's made. He stares at Tsuyoshi, rethinking everything. He concludes that this man is no normal martial artist, and his movements are not Chinese kung fu or any other style he knows. Hashazaki comments that Tsuyoshi doesn't seem like an amateur. Tsuyoshi, with a blank look, vaguely agrees, replying, "Yes, something like that." Hashazaki decides to change tactics. He introduces himself as Hashazaki Enosuk, the winner of the All Japan Karate Championships, before asking, "Do you remember a guy named Yumyoku Teru?" Tsuyoshi thinks for a moment, the name vaguely familiar. Hashazaki explains that Teru is a karate user like himself, and that he heard Teru fought Tsuyoshi about 6 months ago. Tsuyoshi has a faint glimmer of recognition. Hashazaki leans in, his voice filled with intensity, and asks how. How strong was he? After a moment of thought, Tsuyoshi gives a devastatingly simple answer. I don't remember him very well, but I think he was about average. Hashazaki is left completely thunderstruck. A flashback shows a bruised and defeated Yumyoku Teru after his fight with Suyoshi. In the present, Hashazaki can only mutter, "I see," as the reality of the situation sinks in. Another flashback to Teru's warning echoes in Hashazaki's mind. Compared to him, everything we did was for naught. Standing under the full moon, Hashazaki finally understands the true meaning of his rival's despair. The memory shifts to the previous year's tournament. Yumyoku Teru is declared the winner as a defeated Hashazaki lies on the mat. Teru extends a hand to his rival, saying, "Good fight, Anosuk," showing sportsmanship despite their fierce battle. With a smile, Teru had told him, "You're the only one who can evenly fight against me. I'm proud to have fought against you." For Hashazaki, these words were the ultimate praise. Clasping hands, Hashazaki had vowed, "Next year, I'll be the one to win." All of his intense training was dedicated to defeating this one man. The memory fades to Hashazaki training relentlessly in the mountains, his hands bloody, panting for breath as he pushes himself, whispering more. With gritted teeth, he screams that his current strength isn't enough. All that power was to defeat Teru, a goal that now seems so small and misguided in the face of a true monster. Back in the present, a fire ignites in Hashazaki's eyes. He clenches his fist, a new resolve hardening his features as he finally understands everything. He remembers Teru's words about no longer caring who wins or loses after they had both trained so hard. He now understands the crushing feeling of facing an unbeatable opponent. His back muscles ripple as he tightens his fist. For his rival's sake, for the honor of all their hard work, he declares to himself, "That is why I need to win this." Hashazaki rips off the top of his karategi, revealing his chiseled physique. With renewed determination, he shouts, "Let's end this, Kawabata Suyoshi." Suyoshi calmly states that his break time is short, and he doesn't think Hashazaki will be able to land a hit anyway. Hashazaki simply replies, "Just wait and see." Hashazaki unleashes another furious barrage of kicks, but Suyoshi continues to effortlessly dodge every single one, his movements fluid and precise. Letting out a fierce battle cry, Hashazaki continues his assault, throwing everything he has at the unmoving clerk. He lunges forward, his movements a blur, kicking up dust and debris as he tries to overwhelm Tsuyoshi with sheer speed and power. This is the most critical aspect of karate, concentrating all of one's peak physical strength into a single devastating punch. Through years of relentless training, applying constant pressure to their fists, a karateka's knuckles become as hard as rocks. When that is combined with the spin of the waist, the spin of the fist, and the shifting of weight, the power is multiplied exponentially. The result is a fist strong enough to split boulders, a technique Hashazaki has mastered, and he's about to unleash it on Tsuyoshi. With a thunderous roar, Hashazaki unleashes his ultimate technique, the rock-splitting strike, a punch carrying the full weight of his training and dedication. But as the powerful punch nears its target, Tsuyoshi simply extends his palm, stopping the devastating blow dead in its tracks, as if it were nothing. Hashazaki stares in utter disbelief, seeing his ultimate, rock-shattering punch completely neutralized by a simple open palm. Before Hashazaki can react, Tsuyoshi retracts his hand and delivers a single, precise strike to Hashazaki's chest. The impact ripples through his body, and Hashazaki's eyes widen in pain and shock. Hashazaki collapses to his knees, gasping for air, the single blow having completely overwhelmed him. Tsuyoshi stands over him, calmly stating, "As I said before, I did not start fights, but I will finish them." With that, he announces his break is almost over and begins to walk away, leaving Hashazaki defeated. Hashazaki can only watch him go, stammering why. In utter shock, his world completely shattered. Tsuyoshi arrives back at the convenience store just as his co-worker, Ms. Ching, is leaving. She remarks that he seems to get into scuffles a lot. In the background, Hashazaki is still kneeling in defeat as Tsuyoshi nonchalantly replies that he fought delinquents and a karate user. The next morning, an alarm clock rings. We see the humble apartment of Kawabata Tsuyoshi, a 22-year-old part-time worker, as he begins another ordinary day. In a monologue, Tsuyoshi describes his simple life. Living alone, working at a store, no hobbies. His only problem is that he keeps getting into fights with random people. He reflects on why this happens, concluding that it's probably because, so far, he hasn't managed to lose a single fight. The day begins for Kawabata Tsuyoshi in the park. A group of elderly people gather around him, expressing their gratitude. One person exclaims that their body feels much better, all thanks to him, while others chime in, eagerly asking him to teach them again. After a quick exercise, Suyoshi, a gentle-looking young man with glasses, smiles and agrees. Sure, he says, if you're ready, let us begin. Tsuyoshi's routine continues as he puts on his favorite classical tunes and rides his bike past the Tamagawa River. He then stops to buy an iced coffee at the very same convenience store where he works. He heads for home, enjoying the summer winds. But he has a premonition that his quiet enjoyment is about to be short-lived. And just like that, his peaceful moment is over. A large figure blocks his path, dragging him back to reality. A hooded man confronts him, asking, "Are you Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" Caught off guard, Tsuyoshi simply replies, "Yes, can I help you?" The man is an intimidating figure, dressed in a tattered coat with a cigarette in his mouth. He holds the leash of a fierce dog, which is restrained by a muzzle. With a menacing grin, the man makes his intentions clear. "I'm gonna beat you up," he sneers. Tsuyoshi, still on his bike, looks on in alarm. The man pulls back his hood, revealing his face. He takes an aggressive step forward as his dog growls, ready to attack. The assailant lunges, not at Tsuyoshi, but at his bicycle. He throws a devastating punch that smashes the bike's frame to pieces. The man follows up with another punch, grinning wickedly. But Tsuyoshi stands his ground, dodging the attack with ease. In a flash, Tsuyoshi retaliates. It's not a powerful blow, but a light, precise tap to the man's stomach. The attacker's eyes widen in sheer disbelief and shock. The seemingly tough man collapses to his knees, completely defeated. He stares blankly, unable to comprehend what just happened, as his dog whimpers in the background. The dog, now terrified, runs away yelping. The scene changes, and Tsuyoshi calmly watches as his attacker is forced to buy him a new bicycle. Tsuyoshi reflects that while he often gets into weird fights, sometimes he gets something good out of it, in this case, a 25,000 yen bike. Tsuyoshi arrives back at his home. As he walks in, a man greets him with a cheerful good morning. Tsuyoshi thinks to himself that even he has dreams he'd like to accomplish. He enters a messy room, filled with canvases and art supplies. It's a studio. He sees a man with dark hair already busy painting and notes that Mr. Tanaka is here. Tsuyoshi reveals his personal dream. He wants to be a painter. He, along with his friends, are renting this single-room studio apartment for 160,000 yen, splitting the cost. With resolve, he decides to start his own painting session. Just then, another man with long hair, Mr. Satu, walks in. "Good morning," he says, noticing the other two are already at it. Now, all three of them are in the studio, ready to paint. Tsuyoshi's housemates are introduced. The cheerful Mr. Sadataku, age 27, and the more reserved Mr. Tanaka-gen, age 25. Tsuyoshi mentions he's practicing last year's entrance exam subject again. Mr. Tanaka is focused, but Mr. Sada scoffs at the idea, declaring that they are already artists just by being there and don't need to go to university. Tsuyoshi says plainly that he doesn't want to flunk the exam again, so he'll do his best. His friends, Tanaka and Satu, are horrified. He said the forbidden words, mentioning the exam which they have failed on their 6th and 7th tries. Later that night, Tsuyoshi gets ready to leave. He tells his friends he's done for the night and is heading off to work. While walking, he receives a notification on his phone. It's a message from his coworker, Samaki, also known as Ms. Ching, reminding him they have a shift together. A small smile appears on his face as he thinks of her. As he's about to reply to the message, his path is blocked by yet another challenger appearing out of the darkness. "You're finally here," the imposing figure says. Tsuyoshi looks up from his phone, his expression shifting from pleasant surprise to mild annoyance. The man is tall and muscular, with long dark hair and bandaged arms. He sizes Tsuyoshi up and asks, "You're Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" His voice drips with disdain. "Your body is so flimsy, and yet you call yourself the strongest man alive. You're kidding me." Tsuyoshi, looking completely bewildered by the title, can only reply, "I've never called myself that." The challenger, ignoring Tsuyoshi's denial, gets worked up. "I don't want to hear your excuses," he yells. "Let's see if you can handle my flicker jab." But the fight is over in an instant. With a single, almost lazy-looking touch from Tsuyoshi, the challenger is left face down on the pavement. Tsuyoshi looks at his watch and casually remarks, "I'm glad I left a little early." Tsuyoshi arrives at the Losun convenience store for his shift. His co-worker, Samaki, also known as Ms. Ching, is on her break and sees him sitting at a table. "Tsuyoshi, what are you doing?" she asks. He explains he's drawing a poster for a new item. Ms. Ching is impressed and asks to see it. She reveals that she came from China to learn Japanese and recognizes his artistic ambition, saying she can see it in his drawings. Having become good friends over many shifts, she warmly tells him, "I'll root for you." Tsuyoshi finishes his cartoonish poster for a new ice cream bar and greets his manager on the way in for his shift. Later, the manager sits at his desk, looking at Tsuyoshi's handiwork. He sighs, thinking to himself, didn't he say he wanted to be an artist? His drawings suck. As Tsuyoshi walks home after a long day, feeling tired, he is once again stopped by a large figure emerging from the shadows. "You there, wait a moment," the figure commands. A man in a traditional hakama, and GI introduces himself with an air of superiority. "My name is Tsukiki Joboro. Are you Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" he asks, then immediately follows up with, "I'd like to fight you." Tsuyoshi calmly agrees, but states that he has several conditions that must be met. Tsukikage eyes him suspiciously and asks what they are. Tsuyoshi lays down his terms. They will fight only once, and if Tsukikage loses, he must promise to never speak about Tsuyoshi to anyone. After a brief pause, Tsukikage smirks and agrees. With the terms agreed upon, Tsukikage announces the beginning of the duel. He declares his Sosher Mugen style and gets into a stance, ready to draw his wooden sword. In the very next moment, the fight is already over. Tsukikage lies face down on the ground, completely defeated. Tsuyoshi stands over him, victorious without any apparent struggle. As if nothing happened, Tsuyoshi puts his headphones on, starts his music, and continues his walk home, leaving his defeated opponent behind. Arriving back at his apartment complex, Tsuyoshi begins his nightly wind-down routine by making himself a warm cup of instant milk tea. He then settles down on the floor of his room and flips through an art book, choosing paintings that best fit his mood for the day. He admires a piece by Vermeer, noting how beautiful it is. With a large yawn, Tsuyoshi notes the time. It's already 3 a.m. He lies down in bed with a peaceful smile, finally ready for sleep after an eventful day. However, Tsuyoshi is being watched. Hiding behind a utility pole, a shadowy figure with glowing eyes observes him. The watcher recalls the 3 opponents Tsuyoshi effortlessly defeated in a single day and spots a missing dog poster, likely from the first challenger. The watcher, revealed to be Hashazaki, clenches his bandaged fist. He is filled with a burning resolve. "I'm going to find out his secret," he declares to himself, the secret to his strength. This marks the end of a chapter. The scene flashes back to Tsuyoshi on his bicycle, being stopped by a large figure and dragged back to the reality of another fight. The perspective shifts to Hashizaki's investigation. He has tracked down an overweight man he addresses as Aizen-sensei, asking him for information. This is part of Hashizaki's obsessive quest to understand Tsuyoshi. The story then jumps to the beginning of Chapter 4, inside a hospital. Hashazaki is sitting with a doctor who is grimly reviewing his x-rays. "Oh my, looks like you outdid yourself today," the doctor says. "It's completely shattered." The doctor is curious about the cause of such a severe injury. Hashazaki forces a laugh, claiming, "I broke my arm after doing a few punches." Meanwhile, the x-ray on the screen shows his bone isn't just broken, it's shattered into pieces. The doctor expresses his amazement, stating he's never seen such a clean break. He informs Hashazaki that rehabilitation will be necessary. Hashazaki, however, stares back with unsettling intensity, asserting that the injury will heal very quickly. Hashazaki leaves the doctor's office, his arm heavily bandaged and secured in a sling. As he stands grimly in the elevator, the reality of his shattering defeat begins to set in, hardening his expression with a quiet, burning determination. His relentless search eventually leads him here, to a low-sun convenience store. With his arm still in a sling, Hashazaki stares from a distance, his intense gaze fixed on an unbelievable sight. The monster who effortlessly shattered his arm is simply working a shift as an oblivious cashier. Hashazaki is consumed by his defeat, replaying the moment in his mind. He marvels at the immense strength contained in Tsuyoshi's small frame. He concludes there must be a secret to his power and becomes determined to learn more about him. Back in his modern high-rise apartment, Hashazaki, with his arms still bandaged, gets on his laptop to begin his search. He types Kawabata Tsuyoshi into the Google search engine. The first result that pops up is a clickbait article. "I made $1 million even though I'm small and wear glasses. How to make millions easily." The search results are full of useless self-help blogs and get-rich-quick schemes, all using the name Kawabata Tsuyoshi. Hashazaki looks on with growing annoyance. He comes across a profile for a business psychology management professor, also named Kawabata Tsuyoshi, whose cheerful photo looks nothing like the man who defeated him. "Who the hell is this?" he yells in frustration. Frustrated, he realizes there are too many people with the same common name. He changes his search query, now typing in strongest martial artist. The new search yields results about an urban legend, a mysterious figure known only as the world's strongest man. Hashizaki's eyes widen as he reads the headline. He reads on, learning about a legend of a man who all the strongest martial artists acknowledged as the best. It is said that they all fought him, but none were able to win. The article gives this legendary figure a nickname, the Cold-Hearted Reaper. It promises an exclusive interview with the man on the next page. Hopeful, Hashizaki moves to click the link. However, the link doesn't lead to an interview. Instead, it opens a pornographic advertisement, much to Hashizaki's shock and disgust. To make matters worse, the pop-up triggers a fake virus warning. Hashizaki realizes the link was just bait for a porn site and yells out, "Damn it," in a fit of rage. Having concluded that there's no reliable information on the internet, a furious Hashizaki gives up on his online search. He decides to take matters into his own hands and is seen running out of his building and hailing a taxi. Meanwhile, in a messy apartment, the pop idol group Metamorphoses is holding a live stream to announce their new song for their 2-year anniversary. Watching the stream with rapt attention is Yumyoku, Hashizaki's former rival, now an overweight idol fanatic. He's ecstatic as the group announces their new song, Dokidoki Summer Paradise, will be released on August 19th. Just as the idol group is about to announce a special present for those who pre-order, Hashizaki bursts into the apartment, yelling Teru's name. He's out of breath from running up the stairs and desperately says he needs to ask him something. Panting, Hashizaki tells Teru about his encounter with Kawabata Tsuyoshi, confirming that everything Teru had told him was true. Teru, however, is annoyed, only half listening as Hashizaki interrupts his live stream. Hashizaki laments that Suyoshi is impossibly strong, and all the training and effort he put in was meaningless against him. Teru seems to react, as he knows what Hashizaki is talking about. As the idol group on the live stream says their goodbyes, Hashizaki finishes his story, still trying to catch his breath. Teru, however, just stares blankly at his computer screen, humming along to the music. Hashizaki pleads with Teru begging him to share any information he has. Please, tell me more about him. Tell me who told you about him. Anything will do. Teru finally snaps, but not about Tsuyoshi. He explodes in rage, screaming "Shut up!" at Hashazaki. He furiously explains that Hashazaki barged in during a crucial part of the live stream. This is a live stream. You get it. I won't be able to listen to it later. Teru gets in Hashazaki's face, irate that he missed the CD release details. He mockingly asks if Hashazaki will buy it for him, then calls him a simpleton and tells him to shut up. Completely bewildered, Hashazaki can only apologize. Hashazaki is kicked out. As he desperately pleads for help, Teru coldly tells him off. You lost against him, right? He broke your arm? So why don't you go ask him directly? Then he slams the door in his face. Dejected and with no new leads, Hashazaki walks through Tachikawa Station. With his arms still in a sling, he boards a train, alone with his thoughts and his failure. Hashazaki, his arms still in a sling from his previous encounter, stands grimly outside the convenience store. Inside, the clerk, Kalbata Suyoshi, and his co-worker, Tsamaki, look up, startled by the intense presence of the new arrival. Hashazaki places a single can of black coffee on the counter. His eyes are fixed on Suyoshi, the unassuming clerk who holds the secret to overwhelming power. Both Suyoshi and Tsamaki watch him, sensing this is no ordinary customer. With a strained voice, Hashazaki tries to speak, mentioning the name Kawabata Tsuyoshi and saying he has a question. The sheer desperation in his tone catches Tsuyoshi completely off guard. Attempting to maintain a semblance of normalcy, Tsuyoshi gestures to the floor markings. He politely informs Hashazaki that he needs to wait in the designated line like everyone else. Tsuyoshi explains that his behavior is making the other customers uncomfortable. Indeed, a few shoppers are now casting worried glances in their direction. Humbled, Hashazaki mutters an apology. He stands dejectedly at the counter. From the side, Tsamaki watches the scene unfold, thinking to herself that this strange man really needs to learn some basic manners. A little later, Tsuyoshi calls for the next person in line, but Hashazaki remains. Determined, he steps forward once more, placing the same can of coffee on the counter. He isn't finished yet. Tsuyoshi mechanically states the price. That will be 128 yen. But Hashazaki is lost in his own world, the pain in his arm a constant reminder of his humiliating defeat. What can I do, he wonders, to find out the secret to his strength? As Tsuyoshi repeats the price, his hand slaps the counter with a sudden flurry of motion. He then stares in surprise at the pile of coins that Hashazaki has just dropped to pay for the coffee. The transaction is done, but Hashazaki's real purpose is now laid bare. His face contorts with desperation as he leans in and screams, "Please, tell me." He continues to shout, begging to learn more about Tsuyoshi, frightening the other customers. His co-worker Tsamaki turns to him and asks, "What's up, Tsuyoshi?" Another weird customer. Tsuyoshi tries to calm the situation, pointing out the other customers and apologizing that he can't help. As he does, he notices Tsamaki snacking on chicken nuggets again, sighing at his chaotic workplace. But Hashazaki is relentless. He grits his teeth, his mind made up. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and he refuses to let it slip away. His pleas turn into demands. "I'll wait for you. When you get off work?" Flustered, Tsuyoshi warns him that he's being a bother and threatens to call the police if he doesn't stop. The threat is meaningless to him. "I don't care," Hashazaki roars, slamming his good hand on the counter. Tsuyoshi is genuinely shocked by the man's utter disregard for consequences. Tsuyoshi is stunned into silence. Tsamaki, however, seems impressed by Hashazaki's nerve. Hashazaki's face crumples, tears welling his eyes as he pleads, "Please, you're my only hope. I beg of you." In a shocking display of utter desperation, Hashazaki throws himself onto the convenience store floor, bowing low. "Make me your disciple," he begs. A horrified Tsuyoshi pleads for him to stop this embarrassing display. Panicked and desperate to end the scene, Tsuyoshi hastily gives in. He thrusts a flyer at Hashazaki, telling him to go there and to please just leave. It's something I do as a volunteer, he explains quickly. Hashazaki looks at the paper in his hand. It's a simple photocopied flyer for Tai Chi classes. His gaze then shifts to a nearby apartment building, his mind now fixed on this new, unexpected path. Alone, Hashazaki examines the flyer more closely. Tai Chi. So, Kawabata was a Chinese kung fu martial artist, he concludes. The fact that the classes are free only deepens his admiration. He sees it as proof of a generous and noble spirit. He opens the door to his home, still clutching the flyer. A new resolve forms within him. He decides he must follow Tsuyoshi's lead, not just as a martial artist, but as a human being. That evening, as he stands on his balcony, Hashazaki thinks of his rival, Teru. He stares out at the city lights and makes a promise to himself. He will keep moving forward and bettering himself, no matter what. Before the sun has even fully risen, Hashazaki is already putting his new resolve into action. He runs through the city streets, panting with effort, following the signs toward his destination. Sweating and exhausted, he finally arrives at the entrance to Showa Park, the location mentioned on the flyer. He pauses to catch his breath, ready to take his first step on a new path. He glances at his watch. It's only 5:30 a.m. As he walks into the park, he's surprised to see a group of elderly people already gathered. He must have a lot of serious students. Hashazaki thinks, assuming they are all there for the same intense training he seeks. As Hashazaki joins the group, he's surprised to find only elderly people. An old woman named Mrs. Siko offers him a candy. One of the men is impressed, noting that getting a candy from her is a sign of favor. Just then, Kawabata Tsuyoshi arrives, casually wishing everyone a good morning. Hashazaki watches him, reminding himself not to be deceived by appearances. For all he knows, these seniors could be hidden Tai Chi masters. Upon seeing Suyoshi, Hashazaki immediately bows deeply, loudly apologizing for bothering him the previous night and thanking him for letting him come. The other members greet Tsuyoshi casually, calling him Mr. Kawabata. Tsuyoshi is completely bewildered by the formal apology from the new kid so early in the morning. The other seniors murmur amongst themselves, surprised to see a young person joining them. Tsuyoshi begins the class, asking the newcomer to introduce himself. To the crowd of seniors, the national karate champion formally announces himself. My name is Hashazaki Ainosuke. The class starts with simple stretches, which Hashazaki struggles through awkwardly. Then, Tsuyoshi instructs them to get into the Qigong posture. Hashazaki is stunned, having never seen anything like this in his training. As they hold the posture, Hashazaki feels the atmosphere shift. He observes the serious expression on an elderly man next to him, and even thinks Tsuyoshi's stance looks different, more rigid and powerful. He is seeing what he wants to see. Tsuyoshi announces that they will now practice some forms. Hashizaki's eyes widen in anticipation. Finally, he thinks, this must be it, the secret to Tsuyoshi's true power. Tsuyoshi leads the class through a series of slow, gentle movements like the Hanyuan Gong and Xie Danbian stances. Hashazaki tries to follow, but feels incredibly weird. The movements are smooth and slow, completely alien to his explosive karate background. Hashazaki is confused. Every form flows into the next seamlessly, yet they feel like separate moves. He can't tell where one begins and the other ends. As Tsuyoshi instructs another student, Hashazaki comes to one certain conclusion. This style of martial arts is powerful. Hashazaki thinks with conviction, despite his confusion. Just then, Tsuyoshi claps his hands. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for coming. Hashazaki is shocked. Wait, it's over. While he stands there dumbfounded, the other members are already chatting casually. Tsuyoshi thanks them and says he'll see them the day after tomorrow as he prepares to leave. Hashazaki confronts Tsuyoshi, asking in disbelief if the class is really over already. Tsuyoshi, carrying his bag, simply and calmly replies, yes, that's it. Hashazaki presses on, asking if continuing with Tai Chi will allow him to become as strong as Tsuyoshi. He eagerly offers to join if Tsuyoshi does any secret training by himself, but Tsuyoshi replies that this is the full extent of his exercises. As Hashazaki tries to process this, he overhears some of the other members. They chat about how their joint pain is gone and they're feeling much better, all thanks to Tsuyoshi. Hashazaki is completely bewildered. What he witnessed was monstrous strength, yet what he's learning is gentle exercise for seniors. The two just don't add up. As his mind spins with questions, Suyoshi simply says, "I'm going home, okay?" and walks away. 1 month later, the scene shifts to the group having a pleasant post-exercise picnic. The peaceful scene indicates that Hashazaki has been patiently attending the Tai Chi classes this entire time. Hashazaki now seems to be a regular member of the group. He sits with the seniors, sharing tea and snacks, and they address him warmly as Mr. Hashazaki. Mrs. Siko offers Hashazaki a brown sugar candy. He accepts it with a genuine smile, saying that he loves them. He has become comfortable and friendly with the elderly students. Hashazaki even helps out with community activities, showing a festival mock-up he designed to another member. Mr. General he's praised for his artistic talent, a side of him he rarely explores. Despite the praise he receives and his friendly demeanor, Hashazaki has a moment of intense internal crisis. He smiles on the outside, but his inner voice screams, "What the fuck am I doing?" A few days later, another class comes to an end. Hashazaki watches as Tsuyoshi prepares to take his leave. He reflects that even after attending for a while, he's made no real progress in understanding the man's power. Finally working up the nerve, Hashazaki tries to corner Tsuyoshi after class. "Mr. Kawabata, I need to ask you something," he calls out, but Tsuyoshi bluntly brushes him off, saying he's busy. Hashazaki feels a wall between them that he can't seem to break through. Just as he's feeling dejected, Mr. Jin from the class asks to have a word with him. But Hashizaki's mind is elsewhere. He knows he needs to do something more, something decisive, to get the answers he seeks. Abruptly, Hashizaki apologizes and sprints away, yelling that he has something else to do. The seniors watch him go, remarking that it's unusual for him to skip their after-class tea. Hashizaki is done waiting. Hashizaki chases after Tsuyoshi, who is trying to flee on his bicycle. "Mr. Kawabata," he yells, "please. I really need to talk to you." Running alongside the bike, Hashizaki desperately negotiates. "I told you, I'm busy today," Tsuyoshi protests. Hashizaki pleads, "We can talk while we move. I don't mind if it's only until you reach your destination." Tsuyoshi finally gives in. Panting, Hashizaki immediately starts his interrogation. "When did you start Tai Chi?" Tsuyoshi casually replies, "Since I was 5, I think." Hashizaki is shocked, thinking that this long history must be the source of his strength. He asks where he learned it, and Tsuyoshi explains he just learned at the park and took over as teacher when the last one left. This simple answer flies over Hashizaki's head. "I see." He thinks so that Tai Chi class is the secret to his strength. Hashizaki asks if the forms can be used in a fight. "Pretty much, yes," Tsuyoshi replies, but quickly tries to change the subject as they arrive at their destination. "We've almost arrived at our studio, so—" "Damn it," Hashizaki thinks, frustrated. He was so close to getting Tsuyoshi to open up about martial arts. He's caught completely off guard by the word studio. They arrive at a small building where 2 men are smoking on a bench. They greet Tsuyoshi, who introduces them as Mr. Jin and Mr. Taku. Hashizaki is confused by the sudden appearance of these strangers. One of the men, Taku, asks who the friend is. Hashizaki politely introduces himself. Taku and Jin say hello, explaining that they were about to do some sketching. Taku explains that they're just poor, struggling artists. He mentions that they used to be a group with Tsuyoshi, all trying to get into art school together. His friend tells him to knock it off. The revelation stuns Hashizaki. "You guys are artists?" "That's amazing." Taku casually invites him to come in and look around. Hashizaki is thrilled, seeing it as a chance to get closer to Kawabata, while Tsuyoshi looks on in disbelief. Inside the studio, Taku jokes that they'll perform better with an audience. Hashizaki realizes that this is where Tsuyoshi paints every day. As Taku suggests a subject to draw, Hashazaki eagerly asks if he can try drawing too. Taku is surprised by his enthusiasm. "You want to draw?" he asks. "Yes, I'd love to," Hashazaki replies. Seeing his chance for an escape, Tsuyoshi tries to put in his earbuds to tune them all out. The impromptu art session begins. Hashazaki sits at an easel, focused. Taku leans over and asks him how he's doing, getting a cool side glance in return. A moment later, everyone is shocked. Hashazaki has produced a stunningly realistic sketch of the bust. "That's amazing!" Taku yells. Even Suyoshi is bewildered, asking, "What's this? Why are you so good?" Hashazaki smiles sheepishly, explaining that he used to sketch a lot in university. Taku is flabbergasted. "You got into an art school?" All three of the aspiring artists, Taku, Suyoshi, and Jin, are completely blown away. Now, all eyes turn to the master himself. Taku and Jin ask Suyoshi how his drawing turned out. Suyoshi tries to hide his canvas, protesting that it's not done, but his friends eagerly crowd around him. They examine Tsuyoshi's work. It's an amateurish, oddly shaped mess. "I guess it's non-conformative?" Taku offers weakly. "Is it abstract art?" asks General Tsuyoshi insists it's a regular sketch. His friends don't hold back, telling him he's terrible at sketching and won't pass the entrance exam next year either. Hashazaki feels awkward, wondering if Tsuyoshi is mad at him. Tsuyoshi glumly admits he's trying to get into art school. Tsuyoshi suddenly launches into a passionate rant, saying he doesn't even like sketching. He complains that to get into art school, you have to prove your sketching skills, which he feels has nothing to do with being a true artist. Hashazaki is stunned by the outburst. Seeing Tsuyoshi so genuinely depressed and hunched over, Hashazaki feels a wave of sympathy. He tentatively speaks up, offering, "If you want, maybe I can help you get better at sketching." Hashazaki explains that sketching is a skill that can be learned by understanding the basics of space, shape, and gradient. Tsuyoshi's friends immediately jump on the opportunity, telling him this is his chance, and he should ask Hashazaki for help. With a kind smile, Hashazaki says that since he's being taught martial arts by Mr. Kawabata, he will be happy to help him out with sketching in return. Tsuyoshi is stunned by the offer from Mr. Hashazaki. In a complete role reversal, he bows his head deeply and asks, "Please teach me." Hashazaki agrees, and the two decide to work together. After their session, Hashazaki walks with Tsuyoshi, who mentions he has to head to his part-time job. They part ways on much friendlier terms, having struck an unexpected deal to teach each other. Hashazaki watches as Tsuyoshi heads for the low-sun convenience store. Before going in, Tsuyoshi turns back and sincerely apologizes for his earlier rude behavior, thanking Hashazaki for the offer to help. The genuine apology catches Hashazaki by surprise, and a smile begins to spread across his face as he realizes he may have finally made a connection. Beaming with excitement, Hashazaki enthusiastically thanks Tsuyoshi, saying that he is the one who should be grateful for this opportunity. They exchange friendly goodbyes, both smiling. Walking away, Hashazaki can't contain his joy. He pumps his fists in the air, celebrating this unexpected breakthrough. He reflects that while he never cared for art for the first time in his life, he's actually glad he went to art school because it led to this moment. Still celebrating his good fortune as he walks away from the store, Hashazaki is suddenly stopped in his tracks by a voice. He turns, shocked, to see Tsuyoshi's co-worker, Samaki, who remarks, "You've got tenacity, I'll give you that." While casually eating, Samaki reveals that many others have come before, asking Tsuyoshi to train them, but they all gave up quickly. She then looks at him and asks a shocking question. "Do you want to know about Tsuyoshi's secret?" Hashazaki can only stammer, "What did you say?" The chapter ends with a close-up on Samaki's face. Her expression is no longer that of a simple convenience store worker. It's sharp and serious. With a knowing look, she poses her own question to Hashazaki. "Who are you?" Continuing from the last chapter, the story introduces a mysterious girl with her hair tied in buns. She confidently introduces herself to a wary Hashazaki as Qin Shinmei, a Chinese exchange student. Qin then places her hand on Hashazaki's chest, adding that she's also a simple employee at the same store as Tsuyoshi, leaving Hashazaki utterly confused by her sudden appearance and familiarity. Suddenly, Hashazaki launches a fierce attack, but Chin effortlessly parries his blow, showing a glimpse of her martial arts skill. Hashazaki cries out in pain, clutching his chest where she struck him. Annoyed, Chin demands to know what's wrong with him, unfazed by his aggression. Undeterred, Hashazaki attacks again, but Chin once more calmly intercepts his punch with precision. The confrontation continues as she neutralizes another of his strikes. Her calm demeanor contrasts sharply with Hashizaki's pained and aggressive expression. A series of panels show the one-sided spar. Hashazaki attacks relentlessly, but Chin defends with fluid and minimal movements, highlighting her superior technique. With a shout, Chin lands a decisive blow. Hashazaki is thrown back, his expression a mix of shock and pain, as he can't comprehend her speed and power. Enraged and humiliated, Hashazaki grabs her by the wrist. She cries out in pain, but then stares him down, demanding to know what he's doing. With a smirk, Chin taunts him, stating that while he might be a good martial artist, his skills are nothing compared to Tsuyoshi's. Hashazaki is stunned into silence. Sensing his desperation for answers, Chin makes an offer. She'll tell him a secret to Kawabata's strength if he invites her for tea. Hashazaki immediately agrees, eager to learn anything he can. They arrive at an izakaya, a Japanese pub. Hashazaki looks on, annoyed, as Chin begins ordering a full meal, thinking to himself that he only agreed to get tea. As a waitress takes their order, Chin asks for a lemon sour. Hashizaki looks on as the table fills with food and drinks, far more than the simple tea he had envisioned. Chin lets out a sigh of satisfaction after a long drink, exclaiming how good it is after work. Hashizaki, impatient, finally asks who she really is, noting that her movements were very similar to Kawabata's. With a sly, confident smile, Chin reveals her true identity. She is not a simple student, but an intelligence agent from the Chinese Ministry of Martial Arts. Hashizaki is utterly shocked by the revelation. She explains that Suyoshi's strength is considered abnormal, having defeated many Chinese fighters, which is why her government is now interested in him. Hashizaki struggles to comprehend the scale of the situation. Still reeling, Hashizaki asks about the Chinese Ministry of Martial Arts and who Kawabata-san is. Chin calmly replies that she's still investigating and, for now, can only say so much. Chin explains that Tsuyoshi's strength is enough to attract the attention of an entire country. In the half year since she came to Japan, 192 people have challenged him, including herself. Hashizaki is flabbergasted by the sheer number of challengers. Hashizaki wonders what kind of life Tsuyoshi must lead, facing challengers constantly. Chin elaborates that there are almost no opponents who can win or even land a single hit on him. She then smirks, mentioning she found something very interesting while researching him. She shows him a flyer for a kickboxing gym, explaining that Tsuyoshi's parents apparently owned it. Hashizaki wonders if that's the secret to his strength, but Chin quickly shuts down the idea. Chin clarifies that the gym had already closed down by the time Tsuyoshi was 5 years old. Furthermore, she points out that his fighting style is not kickboxing at all. She tells him that from that point on, Tsuyoshi began to learn a certain martial art. Tai Chi. Hashizaki is stunned, exclaiming that he practices Tai Chi as well, but Chin clarifies that the class Tsuyoshi attends is different. A vision of Tsuyoshi's training appears. It's nothing more than basic morning exercise routines in a park with a group of elderly people 3 times a week. Hashizaki is speechless with disbelief. Incredulous, Hashizaki shouts that the idea of gaining such power from simple exercises is ridiculous. Chin calmly confirms that, as far as her intelligence suggests, this simple routine is indeed the only training Tsuyoshi does. Still struggling to accept it, Hashizaki asks how it's even possible to achieve that level of strength with so little effort. Chin thoughtfully explains that in China, Tai Chi is a traditional martial art known for its sophisticated techniques, but she admits she still doesn't have a definitive answer for Tsuyoshi's case. Hashizaki, sweating and overwhelmed, still can't grasp the situation. He presses Chin for an answer, asking again how Kawabata-san can be so strong with such simplistic training. Chin looks at him seriously and gives her only possible explanation. Tsuyoshi is a genius. Immediately after this profound statement, she casually orders more food, leaving Hashazaki stunned. Sometime later, Hashazaki is seen walking down the street, supporting a very drunk Chin who is complaining about having eaten too much meat. Leaning heavily on Hashazaki, a blushing Chin tells him that Tsuyoshi's strength is an incredible and important matter. With a sly look, she asks him what he thinks about them working together. Hashazaki asks what she's talking about. Hiccuping, she says she brought it up because she recognizes him as a capable fighter, and that if he wants to defeat Tsuyoshi, they must first uncover the secret of his strength. She leans in, her eyes gleaming with drunken determination, and plainly states their shared objective, to defeat him. Hashizaki is shocked by her directness. As he questions how they would do that, Chin reveals she has already requested support from her government, and that they should be arriving at the Losun convenience store right now. In the background, a black van pulls up. Inside the convenience store, the manager kindly tells Kawakan, also known as Suyoshi, that some people are waiting outside to see him. Seeing that the store is empty, he gives Tsuyoshi permission to go take a break. Tsuyoshi thanks his manager and steps outside the store, only to be met by a group of 4 imposing men waiting for him. A dramatic shot reveals the 4 challengers in all their glory. A muscular man with a ponytail, a portly man, an energetic youth in a cap, and a stylish man in sunglasses. Watching from a distance, Chin explains to a confused Hashizaki that these men are the elite of Chinese martial arts, whom she personally selected. They are known as the Four Fists. Chin boasts that despite their different styles, it's no exaggeration to say they are the strongest in China, and she believes that not even Suyoshi can defeat them. The members of the Four Fists observe Suyoshi. The first is Lu Sheng, the Lion of the North of Shaolin Kung Fu, who comments that Suyoshi looks very weak. The second is Wan Yundiao, the Steel King of Hung Jie, who is less quick to judge. The third member, Yen Lu Lan, the Rakshasa Zen of Bejiquin, smiles and says he can tell Tsuyoshi's nature just by looking. The fourth, Lu Jifei, the Rose of Destruction of Bejiquin, scolds the others for their rude comments. Lu Jifei steps forward, politely apologizing for the rude introduction, and makes their request clear. Could you fight with us? Tsuyoshi, calm as ever, says he doesn't care, but he has some conditions. Tsuyoshi states his terms. There will be only one fight, with no rematch, and it must be in a discreet place. His final, most important condition: if they lose, they must promise to never tell anyone about him. The scene shifts, beginning the next chapter of the story. Hashizaki is still supporting the drunken Chin near a park. She looks at her phone, complaining that the Four Fists are late and haven't contacted her. Meanwhile, in that very park, Tsuyoshi stands before the 4 martial artists. Lu Jifei removes his sunglasses, stating that they haven't properly introduced themselves yet. Each of the 4 men introduces himself by name. The stylish Lu Jifei, the smiling Yen Lu Lan, the powerful Wan Yundiao, and the youthful Lu Sheng. After they introduce themselves as enjoyers of Chinese martial arts, Tsuyoshi simply repeats that it will be just one fight. He warns them to take it seriously, so they don't have any regrets. The hot-headed Lu Sheng gets angry, feeling that Tsuyoshi is underestimating them. Yen Lu Lan finds it interesting, while Lu Jifei dismisses it as a simple provocation. Wan Yundiao states coldly that their purpose is to defeat him anyway. The group discusses who will go first. Lu Sheng volunteers, arrogantly proclaiming that 3 minutes should be more than enough to defeat someone like Tsuyoshi, allowing them to finish quickly and enjoy their free vacation. Tsuyoshi casually remarks that it's okay if all 4 of them want to fight at the same time. Lu Jifei warns his comrades not to fall for the obvious provocation, as the others eagerly express their desire to fight. Provoked by Tsuyoshi's impatience, the hot-headed Lu Sheng can no longer contain his anger. With a yell, he breaks ranks and charges headfirst towards his unflappable opponent. The fight begins explosively as Lu Sheng launches himself into the air, delivering a powerful high kick aimed directly at Tsuyoshi's head. As the other masters look on, Tsuyoshi simply turns his head, his expression as placid as ever. Lu Sheng gets into his fighting stance, confidently telling Tsuyoshi that it will only take him 1 minute to rip his head off. As Lu Sheng rushes forward, Yin Lulan comments that it will be difficult for Tsuyoshi to deal with Lu's kung fu. Tsuyoshi, however, remains completely stoic. In a flash, Tsuyoshi effortlessly dodges Lu Sheng's flurry of kicks. Thrown off balance by his own momentum, Lu stumbles and goes sprawling to the ground. Tsuyoshi, now somehow behind him, grabs him by the collar and lifts him up, calmly stating that it seems he has nowhere to run. The other fighters are shocked, thinking Tsuyoshi landed a hit. But Lu Sheng is even more stunned, realizing Tsuyoshi simply parried his attack with minimal effort, completely neutralizing it. Lu Jifei steps in, telling an embarrassed Lu Sheng that's enough. Lu furiously protests that he's just getting started. Lu Sheng frantically complains that it hasn't even been a minute, but Lu Jifei sternly tells him to shut up. All the while, Tsuyoshi watches the argument in silence. Lu Jifei then turns his attention to Tsuyoshi, adjusting his sunglasses. He declares that his style, Bejiquin, is not the same as the one Lu used, implying a different level of skill. Tsuyoshi simply replies, "I get it." The two face each other in the park as Lu Jifei takes his fighting stance. With a powerful shout, Lu Jifei lunges forward, throwing a forceful punch characteristic of the explosive Bejiquin style, kicking up dust from the ground. Tsuyoshi dodges the initial punch, and then a powerful stomp that cracks the ground. Lu Jifei remains poised for his next move. Lu Jifei continues his assault, but Tsuyoshi effortlessly deflects the blow with a simple, almost lazy block. Lu Jifei looks down in disbelief. Despite the power of his attack, he sees that he only managed to make Tsuyoshi shuffle his feet slightly in the dirt. Lu Jifei questions how his attack only moved his opponent a little. A smirk crosses his face as he says, "Not bad," acknowledging Tsuyoshi's resilience. Before Lu Jifei can continue, the towering figure of one Yundiao steps forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over his comrade. Impatient and aggressive, Wan Yundiao declares that Lu Jifei's time is up. He roughly shoves him aside, eager for his own turn. Wan Yundiao unleashes a devastating punch. The blow sends Lu Jifei flying and appears to connect with Tsuyoshi, who is knocked backward. As Lu Jifei yells at Wan Yundiao for interrupting, Lu Sheng comments on his insane strength, noting the jungle gym behind Tsuyoshi is now heavily dented. In the midst of the chaos, Tsuyoshi is seen casually slapping Wan Yundiao's arm away. Ignoring Lu Jifei's complaints, Wan Yundiao's eyes are locked onto Tsuyoshi. He readies himself for another, more direct attack. Wan Yundiao throws a powerful, straight punch. Tsuyoshi meets the mighty blow with a gentle, open palm touch. To everyone's astonishment, Wan Yundiao is violently thrown backward, as if hit by his own reflected force. Tsuyoshi calmly crosses his arms, completely unfazed, as Wan Yundiao stumbles back toward the jungle gym he had previously dented. The other three fighters look on in absolute shock. Wan Yundiao stares at his fist in disbelief, wondering what just happened, and asking if Tsuyoshi somehow returned his own Hung Jie attack back at him. Yin Lulan, the Bejiquin master, finally steps in. He identifies Tsuyoshi's technique as Huajin, an energy neutralization technique, and notes his Nigong, or internal energy, is well developed. Condescendingly, he deems it superficial and offers to teach Tsuyoshi the real Tai Chi. As his comrades watch, Yin Lulan takes a relaxed stance, casually blowing a puff of air or dust from his fingertips, signaling his readiness to engage. Yin Lulan adopts a formal martial arts stance, a serious expression on his face. He now faces Tsuyoshi, who stands waiting, his aura of calm undisturbed. Qin Shanmei finally arrives at the park, with Hashazaki supporting her. She complains that she isn't that heavy when he refuses to carry her. Seeing the standoff, she confronts the four fists. With a furious expression, Chin screams at her compatriots, asking them what the hell they are doing. Everyone, including Tsuyoshi, is taken aback by her sudden, angry outburst. Chin scolds the four fists, saying they should not have acted without her, and reminding them she told them to contact her upon arrival. They try to explain they just ran into him, then sheepishly turn and apologize to Tsuyoshi. Trying to smooth things over, Chin tells Tsuyoshi that these are her friends from China who just have a bad habit of fighting strangers. But Tsuyoshi ignores her, turning to Hashazaki and asking pointedly, "Why were you with Chin-san?" Hashazaki stammers, trying to explain how they met, but Tsuyoshi cuts him off. Stating that he's still on his work break, he turns to leave, leaving a confused Hashazaki calling after him. With his back turned, Tsuyoshi asks to be left alone for a moment. Hashazaki is stunned into silence by the cold request, sensing something is deeply wrong. Hashazaki watches Tsuyoshi walk away and is shocked to see tears streaming down his face, his expression filled with anguish. Crying, Hashazaki thinks in disbelief. The next day, Hashazaki arrives at an art studio, ringing the doorbell. He checks his phone, which has a reminder to help Kobata-san with the drawing, and wonders if he's early since Tsuyoshi hasn't arrived yet. While sitting on a bench and having a drink, Hashazaki recalls the previous day's events, replaying Tsuyoshi's pained request to be left alone and the image of him crying. He continues to ponder Tsuyoshi's strange question about Chin-san, wondering what it all meant. A new chapter begins, titled The Strongest Anguish. Just then, Tsuyoshi arrives on his bicycle, cheerfully apologizing for being late. He smiles genuinely, thanking Hashazaki for coming and saying it's not a big deal. Hashazaki is relieved, thinking to himself that Tsuyoshi seems to be okay after all. Tsuyoshi opens the door to the studio and happily invites him to come in. Inside the cluttered art studio, Tsuyoshi suggests they can use one of the many objects on the shelves, like an animal skull, as a motif for their drawing practice. Hashazaki readily agrees. Hashazaki chooses a taxidermy duck, and they agree to start by drawing it to practice different textures. They both sit down at their easels, ready to begin. Despite trying to focus, Hashazaki is visibly agitated. He fidgets, drinks from his can, and can't sit still. Internally, he screams that he can't take it anymore, as he's too worried about Tsuyoshi. Hashazaki internally debates with himself. He can't just suddenly ask, "Why did you cry yesterday?" He wonders if it's his fault or if it was because of the Chinese fighters, dismissing both ideas as unlikely. Lost in his worried thoughts, Hashazaki makes a strange noise. Suyoshi looks over, asking what's going on. Flustered, Hashazaki panics and blurts out encouragement, giving a thumbs up and saying, "You're doing great." While they're drawing, Hashizaki's phone buzzes. It's a new message from Chin Shinmei. He glances at it while Tsuyoshi continues to receive drawing advice. Hashizaki's phone won't stop buzzing with notifications. He tries to ignore it and continue teaching Tsuyoshi about perspective and drawing. Tsuyoshi notices the constant buzzing and asks if something happened regarding Chin-san. Hashizaki is shocked, asking how he knew. Tsuyoshi simply replies that he heard them talking yesterday. Hashizaki stammers, but Tsuyoshi interrupts, revealing the shocking truth. He knows about Chin-san being a Chinese government agent. Hashizaki is left speechless. As Hashizaki panics, Tsuyoshi explains that while he didn't understand what the drunk Chin was saying, it seemed weird. He then adds with a sad self-deprecation that he should have realized it was a ruse, because there's no way a girl would be genuinely interested in him. Tsuyoshi begins to explain. He tells Hashizaki that, in fact, whenever he went out with Chin-san, she would conveniently disappear, and then strangers would appear looking for a fight. He recounts a specific incident where he went to the bathroom, and when he came back, he found two men knocked out on the ground with Chin apologizing for their behavior. Hashizaki listens, stunned. Tsuyoshi continues, saying that even the previous day with the Chinese fighters, Chin claimed they were friends, which was obviously a complete lie. He sighs, having figured out her whole scheme. Hashizaki is shocked that Tsuyoshi understood everything, including that Chin had led him there. Tsuyoshi continues to muse on why he was ever interested in someone like Chin. Hashazaki, completely misreading the situation, blurts out, "Huh, did you like her?" Tsuyoshi confirms it, explaining that it was all a farce. The matching work shifts, the encouraging messages. It was all a lie. Hashazaki realizes that this betrayal is why Tsuyoshi was crying. Tsuyoshi says he truly hates that kind of manipulation. Overwhelmed by his emotions, Tsuyoshi buries his head in his arms and exclaims, "I want to die." Hashazaki, in a panic, rushes to his side, asking what's wrong. While sketching intensely, Tsuyoshi finally unloads his burden. He explains that for a long time, he's been constantly dragged into fights with strangers who challenge him without any warning. He continues that more and more people keep coming to challenge him. Because they all approach him with hostility, he has only been able to trust a very small number of people. Hashazaki listens, his expression filled with concern and dawning understanding. Tsuyoshi then turns to Hashazaki and says he has an apology to make. He confesses, "Because I'm not a fighter. I just want to be an artist." With tears in his eyes and a broken, almost crazed smile, Tsuyoshi looks at Hashazaki and asks the devastating question, "So, could you tell me why I have to fight?" Hashazaki is left completely speechless. In that moment, everything clicks for Hashazaki. He finally understands. Tsuyoshi doesn't want to fight. He has been forced to face challengers day after day, all alone, simply because he is strong. A fire of determination ignites in Hashazaki. He clenches his fist, realizing Tsuyoshi is not the kind of person who should be forced into this life. He makes a bold decision and asks, "Could you fight with me?" A flashback shows Hashizaki's resolve. He had chased Tsuyoshi down, begging to talk to him, and then bowed deeply before him at his workplace, pleading, "Please, make me your disciple." Back in the present, Hashizaki stands in shocked silence, realizing the weight of the commitment he has just made. He thinks to himself, "What have I done?" while Tsuyoshi looks on, confused. Trying to break the awkward silence, Tsuyoshi returns to their drawing lesson, asking Hashizaki for his opinion on a technique. Hashizaki is still dazed, only managing a simple, "Huh?" Later that day, they part ways. Tsuyoshi sincerely thanks Hashizaki for his help and apologizes for making him listen to all his complaints. Hashizaki reassures him it was nothing and offers to be there if he ever needs to talk. Just as Hashizaki is heading home, his phone rings. It's an incoming call from Chin Shinmei. He answers, clearly annoyed. Chin asks him to come to the Caesarea restaurant near the station, saying there's something she wants to talk about. He spots her waving from inside the restaurant. Hashizaki enters the restaurant and finds Chin sitting with the 4 defeated martial artists. They look up at him as he arrives, and Yin Lulan says, "We have been waiting for you." Hashizaki demands to know why he was called. With a confident smirk, Chin gets straight to the point. "I want these guys to fight with Suyoshi." Chin explains they want his help because he's the only fighter Suyoshi has accepted. However, Hashizaki flatly refuses. He declares that he is now Kawabata-san's partner and cannot work with them. Chin is stunned by his defiance. With a fierce, determined grin, Hashizaki lays down the gauntlet, concluding the chapter with a powerful declaration. "If you want to fight him, first you will have to fight me."